Hello everybody, Edre here, and today I'm going to be doing another installment in the Albums I Missed category. With so many albums coming out all of the time, it is nearly impossible to get around to every single album released on time. Therefore, you know what? These videos are going to happen because if I need to cover albums, but I wasn't able to do it within around a week or two, they end up in this video. And I still want to cover them. I don't want to just abandon them. So I'm going to be covering the new albums from Perfume Genius, Phantom Planet, Christian Lee Hutson, Fontaines DC, and Youngboy Never Broke Again. We are going to start with the Perfume Genius album, Set My Heart on Fire Immediately. And before I really go too deep into it, I want everybody to know who hasn't seen any of these videos yet. In these videos where I cover 5 albums I missed, these are kind of condensed, much shorter reviews. These are not as long as my usual ones. But let me just get right into it. Perfume Genius is a very artsy, very pop-friendly, but very experimental type outlet. And it's alternative art pop, in my opinion. And right off the bat, the first thing that really struck me with Set My Heart on Fire Immediately was the solid production of the album. I cannot deny that the production is some of the best I've heard in this style of music, without a doubt. Some pretty good composition on almost all of these tracks as well, and some really good arrangements. I will say they are some pretty good there's some pretty good songs, but you know, the core of the songs a lot of the times do fall flat, just because I feel like they have this extravagant production and it's beautifully built upon. But the actual bass and the core of the song itself, a lot of the times, isn't nearly as great as I wish it would be. You know, you do get a good blend of different styles here. The opening track, Whole Life, is a good blend of that classical pop. It even feels like Las Vegas era Elvis in some spots, with some pretty good vocals. I will say the piano touch did seem a bit awkward, a bit too cheesy. But good lyrics, overall good song. You know, you get songs like Describe, which have that good old grungy feel. Oddly a classic Weezer feel on some parts of it, with a pretty good ambient ending. And you get a lot of good atmospheric tracks as well. And songs like On the Floor actually give me some Thin Lizzy vibes. Some good 70s soul and funk vibes as well. But overall, how did I feel about this album? I mean, Perfume Genius, Set My Heart on Fire Immediately does have a pretty good production. It's built up quite well. However, like I said, some of the song cores themselves feel a bit weak. But for the most part, it was a really well-executed album, and I have settled on giving Perfume Genius, Set My Heart on Fire Immediately an 8 out of 10. The next album I will be covering is the Phantom Planet album, Devastator. Now, I've always had a soft spot for Phantom Planet, and when I heard that they were bringing an album back, or coming back with a new album, I was pretty excited. It's their first album in almost 12 years. You know, historically speaking, Phantom Planet does have a pretty surfy, pretty beach bum type California sound, while incorporating a lot of different alternative elements in there as well. And Devastator continues to build off of that sound, without a doubt. There are definitely some solid tracks on this album. Bali's song is a great one. And overall, pretty good production. And the thing I like a lot about the production on this album especially is that the more modern sounding production really gives this album a modern flair. It takes their old sound, which we have come to know and love, but modernizes it to the newer audience. And I think it came across quite well. However, I will say that compared to their previous work, such as The Guest, I think that it doesn't really add up. I mean, The Guest is a great album, in my opinion. One of the greatest indie alternative albums of the early 2000s. And, well, Devastator does continue upon that sound, and it's a great return. It was a really good, comeback. I just still feel like there are parts of it that I wish were, the charm is not as solid as it used to be. To say, at the end of the day, unfortunately, the charm is just not as there as it once was. However, I still enjoyed it. I did have good production, and I was left relatively satisfied, because I kind of expected it to not sound as great as I was expecting, just because it has been quite a while. I have settled on giving Devastator by Phantom Planet a 7 out of 10. Pretty solid comeback, and I hope they continue to make music into the 2020s. The third album I will be covering is from Christian Lee Hutson, Beginners. Really, also a really nice folky album. I've heard a lot of these style of folk albums coming out, and it's very acoustic, very to the point, with some very direct writing as well. Atheist, the opening track, is a very solid track, really good song. Folky, fun, to the point, nothing wrong there. I will say my downside of this album overall is just that it is a familiar sound. I really don't feel like there's too much added to it, unfortunately. It's really well executed in its own right, but I don't think that the songs themselves necessarily are unique to him. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if this came from a lot of other folk artists out there. That being said, really solid writing. I really do enjoy this writing style, and Christian does it pretty well here. I have settled on giving Christian Lee Hutson Beginners a 7 out of 10. The Fontaines DC album, A Hero's Death, is one that I've seen praised quite a bit. And I get why. They have a pretty unique sound, and I do enjoy their sound. I do like the vocals. The vocals come across very well, and just overall, it's really solidly put together. But I don't really feel like the individual tracks themselves are that memorable. And that's something that kind of is disappointing, because I really do enjoy the gritty, raw, post-punk sound they are going with here. And, well, songs like Love Is the Main Thing are really good, solid post-punk tracks that I will be coming back to. Much of the album has really solid production and atmosphere, very gritty and raw, but the songs themselves don't really do much for me. They aren't drawing me in time and time again. And unfortunately, that does drag this album down quite a bit. I don't know how else to put it. I think everything about this album's composition is really good, but the actual songs themselves drag this album down, and unfortunately, I've settled on giving A Hero's Death only a 6 out of 10. That does mean I like it. Anything above a 5 is good, so I don't think it's bad. I just wish that the songs, the tracks, and all that were more memorable, not just the overall atmosphere, which is memorable. And the final album I will be covering is from Youngboy, Never Broke Again, Top. I kind of really started to pay more attention to him when he was on Bandit with Juice WRLD last year, and the first thing that stuck out to me on this album was the very acoustic style beats. What I mean is that they were pretty your standard trap beats, nothing else, nothing too interesting there. But I did like the kind of addition of acoustic guitars and those kind of instrumentation. Kind of does make him sound a bit more unique. But there's a very weird, dry vocal production on here that's really kind of spoils a lot of these tracks for me, because it takes the focus away from the song when you have this really kind of obnoxiously dry production on the vocals. And while I know he's not the first one to do it, I think that this feels like a knockoff Don Toliver. And I know, like I said, I know Don Toliver is not the first artist to do this style of music with this sort of sound, but when you compare an album like Heaven or Hell, which came out this year, and compare it to this, it's very clear that Don Toliver is on top of his game, he knows what he's doing, and a guy like Youngboy just isn't. And unfortunately, I've settled on giving Top only a 5 out of 10. I enjoyed it to an extent, but it didn't give me anything new or fresh that I haven't heard from a million other rappers out there. And just the weird production of this thing really does drag it down. But the songs themselves were pretty standard, pretty good for the most part. So I've settled on giving that a 5 out of 10, which is smack dab in the middle. So that is it. Those are the 5 albums I missed from Perfume Genius, Phantom Planet, Christian Lee Hutson, Fontaines DC, and Youngboy Never Broke Again. That is it for now. I might make another classic album video, or I might start covering new albums. That is it for now. I hope you guys enjoyed, and goodbye!